Welcome back. Let's remember last week's lesson. Jesus and his disciples had their meal, which was Maundy Thursday, and it was Jesus' Last Supper. And Jesus washed their feet, remember? After dinner, Jesus and his disciples went to a garden called Gethsemane. It was getting really late, so everyone was whispering. Jesus was very quiet and walked a bit ahead of the others. He looked sad and upset. He stopped and whispered to some of the disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He walked further ahead with Peter, James, and John. He told them, "My heart feels heavy, and I feel very sad. Please stay here and keep watch. I need some company close by." The disciples looked at each other. They had never seen Jesus like this before. Then Jesus walked a bit further. Next to a big tree, he knelt down with his face to the ground. He began to pray to God. He prayed, "Father, I know that I'm about to go through some horrible things. I wish I wouldn't have to, but it doesn't matter what I want. I will do whatever you want." When he had finished praying, he went back to the 3 disciples, where he found them asleep. He woke them and said, "Couldn't you have stayed awake for me for just a little while? You should also pray that you would continue to do what God wants." The disciples did feel bad and tried to keep their eyes open, but when they started praying, they fell asleep. 2 more times, Jesus went off to pray, the same prayer as before, and each time he was disappointed to find his friends asleep. The 3rd time, Jesus woke them saying, "Are you sleeping again? Enough! It is time to go. Here comes the man who is about to give me up to the people who want to hurt me." While Jesus was speaking, Judas was coming towards them. Now remember, Judas was one of the 12 disciples. Judas walked up to Jesus and kissed him on the cheek. Judas had just betrayed Jesus with a kiss. It was a sign to the chief priest that this was Jesus and that he was the man that they wanted to arrest. Jesus let them take him, but one of the disciples didn't like what was happening. He wanted to stick up for Jesus. He took out his sword and cut the ear off of a chief priest. Before the situation got out of hand, Jesus said, "Enough." He reached up to the man whose ear had been hurt and healed it instantly. Then Jesus spoke to all of those around him. "If I wanted, I could pray to my Father for help, and he would send angels to protect me and stop this. But I know this needs to happen to finish what it says in the Bible." The disciples didn't know what to do. They were afraid they might be arrested for being with Jesus. So they quickly left, leaving Jesus being arrested alone. Peter was the only disciple that followed Jesus. He was careful to keep his distance because he was afraid, but he wanted to see what would happen to Jesus. The soldiers took Jesus to a man named Caiaphas. He was a high priest, which means he made a lot of decisions. This is where all the so-called important people had gathered. They were trying to find a reason to arrest Jesus, but he had never done anything wrong. People tried making up bad stuff, but they knew it wasn't true. Finally, Caiaphas asked Jesus, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of God?" When Jesus replied he was the Son of God, Caiaphas couldn't believe it. He even tore off some of his clothes because he thought what Jesus was saying was a lie. These people didn't believe Jesus, and that's when they decided they would kill him. Now Peter was just outside the building where they had taken Jesus. A servant girl saw Peter and asked, "Weren't you with that man Jesus?" Peter lied and said he didn't know what she was talking about. Peter started walking away, but the girl spoke louder so others could hear. "I'm sure you are one of the men that is friends with Jesus." Peter once again said, "No, I don't know what you were talking about." After a while, more people asked Peter the same thing. He started to get upset and said in a loud voice, "I don't know the man you were talking about. I've never talked to him." Right after Peter said this, a rooster crowed, and Peter remembered something Jesus had said to him. "Before the rooster crows, you will turn your back on me 3 times." When Peter remembered this, he was very sad. Peter was one of Jesus' closest friends, but had lied about knowing him. He started to cry. How could he have done this to Jesus? Well, we're going to end things here for now. Next week, we're going to talk about Good Friday. And as we end today's lesson, I have a question for you. Will it be a Good Friday? So your craft this week shows a silhouette of soldiers in the background. Unfortunately, I don't have any stickers to go on it. I didn't have enough to go around it, but I wanted all of you to have the craft. So it's going to look like this. And the stickers are there where Jesus is praying in the garden. Okay? So when it's done, maybe you can send me pictures so I can see what yours looks like. Okay? It's stickers that you place on the background of the silhouette with the soldiers. These are the soldiers coming to get him because he's praying in the garden. So as always, wear your mask, wash your hands, keep them away from your face, and say your prayers. Oh, and the bulletins and stuff will be online for you to upload as well. I'll see you next week when we decide if it's a Good Friday. Have a good week.